So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first in our series of webinars on nature-based solutions. The webinars are organized in the framework of the Act on NBS project, Adaptive Cities Through Nature-Based Solutions, a climate kick project that is designed to increase the uptake of NBS and to establish a growing and sustainable innovation ecosystem, bringing together cities, researchers, and experts to support innovative scale-up of NBS in cities. The Act of NBS on NBS project is currently working with a network of 20 plus cities and has various activities ongoing, ranging from building capacities and providing technical assistance to municipalities to create the conditions for greater uptake of NBS, to promoting collective intelligence and co-creation for NBS, to reviewing the assessment of tools that support greater uptake of NBS, which is the topic of today's webinar, and many more. We believe that nature-based solutions can effectively contribute to addressing Europe's urgent environmental and societal challenges, and in particular that they can play a key role in promoting a green and resilient economic recovery in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. So today we are excited to introduce you to three speakers that will demonstrate the importance of tools in supporting greater uptake of NBS and enhance climate resilience in cities. So first you will hear a presentation from Monserrat Budding-Polo, urban expert at Wageningen University and Research in the Netherlands, who will present different tools to uptake nature-based solutions and promote resilience. Next up, there will be a presentation from Beatriz Mayor, researcher and business models for NBS and climate adaptation specialist at iCatalyst in Spain, who will present a tool developed in the framework of the H2020 project NIAD for the identification of business models for risk reduction related to NBS. And finally, you will hear a presentation from Sara Maya, researcher at Central European University in Budapest, who will present two nature-based solution tools developed in the framework of the H2020 Naturvation project, the Urban Nature Navigator and the Urban Nature Explorer. So these are the three presentations coming up, but before we start, let me give you some practical information on the webinar. First of all, the webinar is being recorded and will be shared on our website over the next couple of days, together with the slides of the speakers, in case you want to watch it again or share it with other people who think might be interested. We will provide you with the link to our website later on during the webinar. Second, the webinar will last for 1 hour. We will try and stay on time, meaning that the presentations will last from 10 to 12, 15 minutes maximum each, so that we can leave some time for Q&A at the end. And third, if you have questions, please type them in the Q&A box, which you can see at the bottom right of your screen, including the name of the speaker you are addressing the question to. Each speaker will then select a couple of questions to be answered live during the Q&A session at the end, and we'll try to answer the other ones directly in the chat box in written form. Okay then, so let me introduce you to the first speaker, Monserrat Budding-Polo, an architect and urban planner specialized in urban environmental management and climate change. She has working experience in the public, private, and academic sectors. Monserrat has an active role as a researcher and advisor for the Climate Resilient Cities team within the Green Climate Solutions program at Wageningen Environmental Research. So Monserrat, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michela, for the warm introduction. I'm going to share now my screen. Can you all see the PowerPoint presentation? Well, I hope so. It's already in your screens. Well, thank you very much for the introduction, and also for the opportunity to be here today presenting on the tools on how to uptake nature-based solutions and enhance climate resilience in cities. So I'm going to explain a bit more of what our work package 3 is doing within the Acton NBS project. We have 3 partners involved in this work package, which is Wageningen University and Research, Deltares, and the University of Bologna. As many of you might know, the European Union has set its agenda to implement research and innovation on nature-based solutions to create more resilient and sustainable cities and societies. Therefore, tools have been developed within and outside different European projects to assist on the planning, design, and implementation of nature-based solutions. However, we have also noticed that these tools currently remain scattered and only apply to specific pilot projects. Our intention in Acton NBS has been to integrate a nature-based solutions catalog that can facilitate the collection of different tools so that municipalities and other users can be aware of this existence of the tools and make use of them in a practical way. By this way, tools can be selected with more accuracy to address climate adaptation challenges with the integration of nature-based solutions. So our work has been quite hard in terms of collecting all these tools, and until now we have around 70 tools in our database, not only about nature-based solutions, but also on how to deal climate resilient cities. Also within this database, we have identified different tools for spatial, economic, social, environmental, and climate analysis. And with the support, for instance, of software, methodologies, e-platforms, repositories, guidelines, and handbooks and catalogs. Most, for instance, for the spatial analysis, we have noticed that there are a lot of software and methodologies developed to implement nature-based solutions. For instance, social analysis or interactions, we have e-platforms. I will explain later on some examples of these e-platforms, but also repositories and guidelines on how to interact or connect with different type of communities and societies to integrate nature-based solutions in cities. The aim of the tools mainly have been for planning and design, also for informative purposes, and just a few can help in really like analysis of the data, and also a few help for inspirational purposes. Also later on, I will explain a few examples on how tools can help to inspire municipalities or analyze data. But yeah, these are like the main objectives, the main aims of the tools. And for the objectives, we have climate adaptation and urban resilience as the main objectives of the tools, but also how to deal with ecosystem services, water management, and green growth. Within these aims and objectives, we also identify different type of themes. Most of them are focused on water and socioeconomic development, nature-based solutions, and nature and biodiversity. But also a few of them are focused on urban development, heat, health and well-being in the city, air quality, urban agriculture, recreation, etc. For this, all these tools also have the possibility to do qualitative and quantitative analysis, either for primary or secondary data. And also a few tools give the opportunity to do cartographic analysis. What was interesting from our analysis is that the tools also address a lot of climate hazards, like flooding, heavy rainfalls, heat waves, and droughts are like the most popular within the tools. But we identified also other climate hazards like sea level rise, cold waves, wildfires, and landslides. However, these tools have not been completely explored or exploded. And yeah, there are two sides of the coin, let's say. One is that we need more research on this type of climate hazards or impacts, and more tools to how to address these issues. And on the other hand, yeah, there's an opportunity for more research and innovation for private companies or universities to uptake this type of research. By whom can and where the tools can be applied? Well, most of the tools developers mentioned that their target groups were policy officers and public officers, decision makers, and professionals, but also other private software developers were focused more on consultants, citizens, real estate, private sector, and of course, the projects that had involved the universities also focus on academics and students and other stakeholders within the project. These tools can be applied mainly at the city level, but we also identified that specific tools can be applied at the district, neighborhood, street, or even project levels. And just a few of them can be applied in a larger scale, like province or region, or even at the country level, mainly those who make climate models. The phases where the tools can be used are, for instance, on the research and exploration phase. Most of them are also made for that, and for the preparation, like planning and design. Part of those tools can be also used for the implementation phase, and just a few can be used for monitoring and evaluation and expansion over scale up of these nature-based solutions. Within the project, we also developed, together with other work packages, interviews with 11 cities, European cities, and they provided us information about their needs and barriers on how to implement nature-based solutions. So just in summary, like most of the needs that they presented were like the need of capital and access to finance, and this is because they don't have a clear NBS business model. So this is one of the needs most of them presented. Also on how to express nature-based solutions co-benefits in monetary values. Some of the cities also require support in integrating nature-based solutions into urban planning and design, which of course tools can be of help in this matter. Also, other cities mentioned the need for city-to-city learning and stronger collaboration with other cities and practitioners, and the need for best practices or more knowledge and technical information on nature-based solutions. Hopefully, while we are spreading this information about the nature-based solutions tools catalog, you can find a lot of tools that can help also address these needs or questions from cities. In terms of barriers, we also notice a lack of awareness or a lack of urgency on the implementation of nature-based solutions in cities. Also that nature-based solutions are not part of the urban agenda. So there's no specific funding for this type of projects. Also lack of expertise or know-how for planning and financing and implementation of nature-based solutions. A lot of hierarchical governance structures instead of transversal green, though there's been a shift already on how to stop working on silos and be more multi-sectoral in terms of the implementation of nature-based solutions, there's still a lot of bureaucracy within municipalities on how to deal with nature-based solutions, who pays for it, who administers or manages or even maintain certain nature-based solutions. Also limited innovative nature-based initiatives. Most of them are based on pilot projects, and I think very little cities have really uptake and upscaled nature-based solutions at a larger scale. Examples of the tools that can help to overcome these needs and barriers are, for instance, inspirational tools. One of these is the Urban Nature Atlas from Naturation. Also, as Michela mentioned, Sarah will present other tools related from this project on urban nature, like the Urban Nature Navigator and the Urban Nature Explorer. But to not repeat information, I will focus on this wonderful tool they developed. And here you can find around 1,000 examples of nature-based solutions from across 100 European cities. So if you click on the map, you can find exactly where these kind of nature-based solutions have been applied, what type of solutions they have done, and how to overcome certain challenges through the methodologies they developed and certain results. They also have key challenges like reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, governance, urban participation or community participation, and of course on the climate hazards. The other tool that it's also interesting to know about is Urban Green Blue Grids. This is more like informative. It's been structured more in a sense of a catalog. So if you click, for instance, on important themes, they have different themes like water, heat, biodiversity, urban agriculture, air quality, energy, social and economic importance. You can select one or many as you wish. And then here you will find also like the different measures or ideas that you can apply within your city. So it's both like inspirational and informative tool, because when you click on each image or solution, you will find more technical information about each tool, and also what is the purpose of each solution, and the conditions that you will need in terms of environment, climate, soil conditions, etc., to make these type of solutions work within your city. For planning and design, we have the adaptation support tool. This tool uses mainly cartographic information, and here you can select, for instance, an area in a city, a neighborhood, and also plan the different measures you want to intervene within that area. For instance, if it's flood reduction or heat reduction, or for other purposes, and then you select within that neighborhood where you want those solutions. And what is also nice from this tool is that it drops out the information about the cost of construction and maintenance. Other technical results like for instance, water quality, nutrient reduction, pathogen reduction is also provided. And for instance, how much water storage capacity has this neighborhood to absorb, for instance, if your purpose was to reduce flooding or deal with the rain floods, stormwater, then these tools can help you to understand more or less how much capacity you have for each measure. For the financial and economic tools, also Bea will explain in a few moments more about the Natural Assurance Business Model Canvas. So I'm not going to talk more in detail about this, but I think this is a big step within the business model research, because it's really tailored for nature-based solutions, and it includes other aspects of the finance and economic structures within the city that other business models cannot offer. So I will let Bea explain further about this canvas. For community or e-platforms, most of you might be familiar with Opla. And Opla, it's also an interactive platform with different stakeholders around the world, and helps also to network and learn from different cities. What are they doing, different cases. A lot of information can be also stored here, and it's accessible to everybody. So I think this is one of a good examples for platforms and community platforms for nature-based solutions. Just to conclude, well, I think that depending on the situation of your city, you have to understand the concrete climate challenges, and for that also select the type of tools you will need. It's not the same, for instance, in cities or areas that have a lot of flooding or drought issues. So yeah, the tools can be sometimes applied for both situations, but also sometimes you have to select one or the other. Also understand institutional context and political awareness, and how to experience, how cities experience nature-based solutions planning, because it depends if it's a big city or a smaller city. For instance, we were also aware that Amsterdam has a lot of experience in designing and planning nature-based solutions, but other smaller cities in Europe, they are still struggling on how to do so. And maybe these smaller or mid-sized cities might need more support of nature-based solutions tools, rather than the big cities, who are the ones who are developing these tools and handbooks, etc. And also the climate strategies should be incorporated in policy, so we can also uptake faster nature-based solutions. A lot of tools are available, often free, online, and they can really help you overcome these barriers. So you don't have to start from scratch. You can explore these tools and see how you can apply it to your project. And of course, as I mentioned, each city has a different context and different needs. So it's important to identify the specific barriers and challenges that your city is facing with. And we suggest that you make use of our Acton NBS catalog. And if you want more information about this, you can always contact us. And I'll leave you here the website of our project, naturebycity.climatekick.org, where you can find more information about the type of research we are doing. Otherwise, also contact me or other of my colleagues who can provide you more information about the tools. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Monserrat, for your presentation, providing a comprehensive overview of the available NBS tools. If the audience has any question, again, please type them in the Q&A box and she will answer them at the end. So next up is a presentation from Beatrice Meyer, an environmental scientist, PhD on the water energy food nexus with a master in integrated water management. She is currently working as a researcher and consultant specialized in nature-based solutions and technological and social innovation for adaptation to climate change at iCatalyst, the Spanish environmental consultancy. Beatrice, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So I'm going to introduce the NAS Canvas tool that we developed and Monserrat already mentioned. And I will try to be brief because we would really would like to have some time for questions. So this tool, 1 second, because I cannot pass the slides. Okay. Okay, so I have to do it this way, sorry. Okay, so what's the first question would be, why is it important to define business models for NBS? Actually, it's because of some of the barriers that Monserrat already mentioned, which is the lack of evidence on the functionality of well-known solutions, upfront investments NBS need upfront investments and take long time to materialize the impact. So the return of investment is not so evident for investors, and there is difficulties to find funding and financing sources to cover these investments and attract investors for their implementation. Therefore, it's important to show the value and communicate it to both citizens and to potential investors in order to have NBS mainstreamed. So what is a business model? A business model has been defined as the rationale of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value in economic, social, cultural, or other contexts. This concept can be translated into NBS because they are at the end providing a service as a company would do, which in the NIAD project we have focused on the natural assurance service, or the protection against natural hazards, but there are many other services that NBS can provide as well. And it is important to identify the elements and the actors that are required to deliver this value, and also organizing the information in a visual way that allows understanding the information and communicating it to investors, implementers, and citizens. So this is why we developed what we call the NAS canvas. So the NAS canvas has been developed within the NIAD project framework. NIAD is aimed to operationalize the value of the value of nature-based solutions, and particularly the effect that they have as a natural assurance against extreme water-related events such as floods and droughts, which are expected to be exacerbated by climate change. And the effect will be to reduce the impacts and thus the costs and the damages. This effect, or this service of providing natural assurance through a scheme, is what we call the NAS, and what gives the name to the NAS canvas. And the NIAD is an H2020 project composed of 23 partners and included 9 demos across Europe where this canvas was tested. So the NAS Canvas tool is based on the business model Canvas, which is a tool that many of you may be familiar with. And it has been tailored to include the particularities of NBS, such as, for example, the multiple values that they can provide, and therefore the multiple beneficiaries that they can have. And it also includes the specific NIAD's economic framework, which includes or emphasizes the risk reduction value and the value of the co-benefits. But it tries to go one step further, and instead of being just some qualitative information showcase for nature-based solutions, it aims to incorporate also numbers on the quantified value and the impacts of the NBS in order to provide this evidence that investors are needing or are demanding in order to see them as an interesting investment. So this is the NAS canvas. I would have liked to have animated this slide, but it's not possible anyway. So it's divided into different clusters, and it aims to follow, because you need to like some order to understand it. It aims to follow a service provision logic, in which the first block will comprise the flow of services components. The second block on the left would be the supply side, the one on the right, the demand side, the relationship between them, and finally the impact. So within the first block of the flow of service, you have the problem that you want to have addressed, and then the value proposition of your solutions for this problem. The primary value would be in this case, the risk reduction service, because it's mainly focused on risk reduction measures. But it would also include the secondary services or co-benefits that these nature-based solutions provide, like, for example, carbon capture or green jobs or any kind of other solutions, other benefits. The second step would be the regulatory context, because you need to provide some or identify which will be your regulatory constraints or levers that will help in the implementation of the solution. Then you go to the supply side and you need to describe who implements the measure first, then the key activities that will be implemented, like the different measures you're going to have. You can have only green solution or a combination of green and gray solutions. So you would describe them here. Then the key resources that you need in order to implement these activities, for example, knowledge, people, human resources, funding. Then you will identify your key partners that you need to engage in order to get these resources. For example, universities or the administration, the government, all the partners required. Then you would identify your costs. And we divide them into the life cycle cost, which would be the CapEx and the OpEx for your solution, and the opportunity cost, that will be the costs or the benefits that you won't get because you are not implementing alternative solutions. Then you would go to the demand side once you have your supply described, and you would identify who owns the problem or who is affected by a problem. And this will give you your customer segments. On the one hand, you would have your direct beneficiaries who are directly benefiting from the primary value, your clients who are the ones that would pay for the solution, and the extended beneficiaries that are the indirect beneficiaries getting benefited by the co-benefits. Then you would identify your revenue streams, which is how you get money from the solution, for example, from tourist fees or things like that. And then your funding sources, which is where you would get the funding or the money to implement the solution, to cover the life cycle costs. That this can be tariffs, taxes, transfers, or private investments. Then you would describe how these two relate between them, through which channels, for example, they communicate. And finally, you would get the impact. So what is the final result? What benefits do you expect to provide, and quantify them so you can give numbers. So I'm sorry to be so quick. I would have liked to introduce some examples of how this was implemented, but there's no time. So what I am going to do quickly is to show you where to find this information. So if you go to the NIAD website, I have it here, hopefully, yes. And you go to the Media Center, to project deliverables, and project public deliverables. In Work Package 7, you can find deliverable 7.2. And in this document, you're going to find a description of the NAS Canvas with how to use it, some guidelines, and the application to several examples. So this said, if you have any questions, you can always contact me, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Bea, for your very interesting contribution introducing us to the NAS Canvas tool. Again, if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A box and we will be happy to answer after the 3 presentations. So our third and last presentation is from Sara Maya, a researcher for environmental and sustainability projects. She is currently affiliated with the Central European University in Budapest as a research assistant on the Horizon 2020 project Naturvation, focused on understanding the potential of nature-based solutions to solve societal challenges. She has been focusing her research on the socio-cultural values and benefits of NBS and on the evaluation of those benefits. Sara, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Just a second to share my screen. Can someone let me know if it's visible?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to present these two tools that I will present today. These are two outputs from the Naturavation project. So I will just briefly introduce the project, and then I will go through the two tools that I will present today, and at the end, just give a short update on what's happening with the Urban Nature Atlas, which was already mentioned today. So Naturavation is a Horizon 2020 project. It started in 2017. Actually, we are almost by the end of the project, so a lot of outputs are already available, which is great. So the project basically aimed at understanding what nature-based solution can achieve in cities and how innovation portrays a role in this. I think all of us already know what nature-based solutions are. I'm just presenting this slide because this is the framework for Naturavation, and it's important to understand the tools that I'm showcasing today. So we have 8 main groups of nature-based solutions. They go from, for example, the first one, external building greens, which is like green roofs and green walls, all the way to green indoor areas as well, to blue areas, to parks and forests. You get a picture here with a few examples. As we all know, nature-based solutions also can aim at solving several environmental problems, as well as actually social and cultural and economic challenges. So this is also the framework for Naturavation for the sustainability challenge that the project aimed to address. They can go from climate action, as you see in the first one, can also be related with social justice and health and well-being, economic developments as well, besides the common environmental challenges that we all know. I will start then talking about the Urban Nature Navigator, and for brevity, I will actually probably mention it as a navigator. So this tool was developed by 4 partners in Naturavation. So it was CEU in Budapest, it was also Lund University, PBL in the Netherlands, IFL in Leipzig. So basically the Urban Nature Navigator is an operation assessment framework that aims at providing a quick and very easy overview of the potential of nature-based solutions in cities and for specific types of nature-based solution. So this that I show here on my slide is basically the homepage of the tool, which is structured in 3 levels. So the first level is the very easy to implement level, can be done individually, like online, by just going on the website. Then you have the silver level, which still has the same data and the same information behind it, but it's a level that is purposely designed to be implemented with stakeholders in a participatory setting. And then we have the gold level, which is currently still being developed, which goes into much more detail, and it involves models where the tool is actually applicable. I will start by showcasing what we mean by the bronze level. The bronze level has 2 modes of working. There's the examine and the explore. First of all, the examine, it's the one that you can see here. And so what I mentioned before is the typology of nature-based solutions and typology of sustainability challenges. Here, the users of the website can select one or multiple nature-based solutions, the same for the urban sustainability challenges. And then the tool basically will, this is how you select them. Then the tool will provide the results of the selection. For example, here in the first figure, I selected the NBS of parks and the challenge of health and well-being, as well as parks for climate action. And basically what the tool does is combine these two features and provide you the figure of the relevant indicators for each challenge. So for example, in the first one, you can see that relevant indicators were considered air cooling, health outcomes, life satisfaction. The same for parks. You can see what basically each challenge has a selection of selected indicators that are relevant for the challenge. And then in the diagrams, you can see the contribution. So for example, health outcomes have a contribution of a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 it's the highest contribution and 1 is the lowest. You can also see the economic score, which is related with property increase prices. And these you can select as many NBS as you want and as many challenges as you want. And then you will have different figures at the end. So this is what happened at the examine level. When we want an explore, the explore mode is basically like a very quick assessment. So you have this master table where you can see immediately the contribution of a specific challenge to a specific NBS. I forgot to put the meaning of the colors, but basically the darkest green is like the highest contribution, which represents a 5 on our scale. And the lightest green, almost white, is like the lowest contribution of a specific challenge has to a particular nature-based solution. As I mentioned, the silver level is meant as a mode where it can be implemented with stakeholder involvement, and on the website by clicking, for example, on the stakeholder involvement, you will be directed to what type of goal do you want to, why are you using the navigator with your stakeholders, and based on the goal that you select here from these 4, there will be a list of methods that can be implemented with the stakeholder participation. The other tool that I would mention today is the Urban Nature Explorer. It's a very recent tool, so we presented it for the first time last month on the Mannheim conference. So we had basically a stakeholder workshop where we were testing for the first time the tool. So the Urban Nature Explorer is a scenario game exercise where users can use our map-based website to implement nature-based solutions and immediately see what are the impacts of implementing certain nature-based solutions towards sustainability challenges, and even for the satisfaction of the residents, of the users of such nature-based solutions. I'll present the links at the end so people can check it and test it. As I mentioned, the Urban Nature Explorer starts by selecting 1 or 2 sustainability challenges, which has predefined sustainability goals and targets that we want to achieve by the scenario exercise, where people can implement nature-based solutions in the map and immediately see what are the impacts of those actions. The current version that we have of the tool is based on a specific case study. This is a city in Hungary because it's one of the partner cities in nature-based solution in nature-based. But with future developments, we are aiming actually to have an option where with Google Maps, the tool can be applied to pretty much any city, but that's still in the works. So as I mentioned, the users start by selecting a challenge. Here, for example, we have 3 challenges that are particularly relevant for this context in this city that I mentioned. So the first one is heat stress, and then we also have a challenge related with social interaction and recreation to attract more people. As you can see in the photos that I have here, this is a paved area. There's not many nature elements. There's no really opportunities for people for recreation. And as you can see, this is a historical city center that is connected to the river, although as you can see from the picture, there's no really connection to the river. So the river is not really being used to this full potential. And that's why we have this challenge. And we also have air quality is also a problem that this area faces. So let's say that I select the first challenge, heat island effect. And then you can see first is like an overview. It's just an introduction basically to the challenge. We have these graphics where we have the 2 most relevant indicators that we are using, which is average daily temperature and number of hot days, which has baseline data. And then you can see the projection, what happens if nothing is done. Like, then you can see the goals, which are of course related with the indicators that we have presented earlier. And then besides trying to achieve these targets, we also wanted users to have in mind the stakeholder satisfaction of the residents and the locals and the users of these nature-based solutions. So that's also one of the goals. So this here, you can see how the game looks like. On the left side, you can see all the types of nature-based solutions that can be implemented in the map. Also the amenities. The amenities are seen as delivering extra functionalities and features to the area. And then on the other side, you can see the implementation period. This game has 2 implementation periods. The first from 2020 to 2025, and then until 2030, where a budget is allocated to each implementation period. And then you can see the graphics. And as you implement nature-based solutions into the map, the graphics will change, hopefully to achieve the target, which is the symbol that you see in green. And as you add more and more amenities into the map, you will also see the stakeholder satisfaction increase. And the combination of the stakeholder satisfaction and the indicator graphs that you see here will also contribute to improve the overall score, which is the yellow part that you see at the bottom. This is just an example of what can be done with the map. As you see, I put a lot of trees in the center. I put a lake, artificial lake here that you can see in blue. For example, the green triangle you see, it's a green roof because that's infrastructure that is already there. All around the area you see in white, I put a cycling and a biking and running track, which improves stakeholder satisfaction. We also have playgrounds and sports activities. All types of things can be implemented in the map. Then basically this is the dashboard, the results of the game, where you can see what was implemented, what was the overall score, what was your progress towards addressing the challenge by the graphics you can see. We also give a breakdown of what happened with the stakeholder satisfaction for different user groups. And we also have an overview of additional impacts besides reducing the temperature that can be achieved by implementing these nature-based solutions in this area. This is coming from the Urban Nature Navigator data that I presented earlier. And then just a quick update on the Atlas, as it was mentioned already today. It's a very comprehensive database of 1,000 nature-based solutions in 100 European cities. This data was collected in 2017. So what we realized is that by now, a lot of the references are already not working. So we are actually in the process of finishing an update to the Atlas. So we are reviewing every single case that we have in the Urban Nature Atlas. We are reviewing whether or not ongoing projects that were still not completed in 2017 are completed now, what happened with those projects, whether they were successful or not. We also added more data fields to the database. So now we are collecting information, for example, on business models, impacts of real impacts or expected impacts of the project, typology of nature-based solutions, which came up after we implemented the project. Yeah, this information, we are still in the process of reviewing. Like we have 1,000 cases, we are around 900 now. So there's still a bit to go. And then we have to do, of course, lots more reviews. But we are hoping that we will have the database ready and online by the end of the year. This is how the Atlas looks like now. It was also already shown today. And these are the links of the 3 tools that I mentioned today. All of them can be accessed through the main Iteration website. And we'll give the links by the end of the presentation. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. If there's any questions, I guess we have now time for questions. I will just stop sharing my screen. Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to present this work.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for your interesting presentation on the 2 tools developed in the framework of the Naturvation project. So now I would open up the floor for questions. So please feel free to add them in the Q&A box. I think we have 2 for now. They are both asking for more information on the NBS Tools catalog that Monserrat presented. So I don't know, Monserrat, if you want to say something about this.
Yes, thank you, Michaela. Yeah, if you want more information about the Nature-Based Solutions Tools catalog, please send me an email, because we're still working on the final version, but we can share the draft version to you. So just send me an email for those interested in those 70 tools, and you can explore later on what are the most suitable for your needs, either as a city or as an urban professional.
Thank you. Oh, so now I'm seeing that there are other questions in the chat box. Sorry, I couldn't see it before. One question from Joseph says, do you track who is using your tools, how often, sector, etc.? And are any projects realized besides projects connected with projects activities using NBS online tools? I don't know if any of our speakers wants to answer this.
From our case, I could say that the tool has been just released, so it's not being used, I think, much outside the European projects fields. It has been used so it was developed in NIAD, and it's going to be used on the Act on NBS project, so it's already being used by a different user. And in reality, well, actually, maybe it was within the framework of NIAD, but it was used by the River Basin Authority in one of our cases, the Duero River Basin in Spain, to work with stakeholders and try to find a business model for some of the solutions that they want to implement. So actually, the sector would be the policy making, probably. So that's in our case an example of use.
Yeah, I can also mention that the Urban Nature Atlas is a tool that we have the longest, so it's the one that we can track the progress. So we have several thousands of visitors regularly to the website. Since it's an open access tool, we cannot really track the role of the people, who, like what is the background of the users who opened the tool. We can know, I guess, geographical regions, but I think that's the extent of it. The Atlas, we also have quite often requests for data. So the data that is available online, it's not the full amount of information that we collected. So we often receive requests for specific research interests, and of course we give the data. The Explorer, again, we can track the visitors, but as I mentioned, we launched it last month, so we have just a few visitors. And the same happens with the Navigator. We also, I think, track the number of visitors to the website.
Yeah, I also have something to add. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, besides those European projects who have used pilot projects to apply the nature-based solutions tools, there's limited information about who continued the application of such tools. So what we are trying to do is actually, promote and disseminate these tools so more people can uptake nature-based solutions and also the tools to develop more projects within cities. So I don't have a specific project to name besides the ones that are mentioned on the websites of the European projects. But I'm sure that if you want to learn more about the tools and they are open access, the purpose is that decision makers, urban professionals, and other public officers can use these tools to continue with this research and implementation of nature-based solutions. Also, there was another question on the chat related to if there are similar tools developed for rural areas. I think so, because there's also a lot of research done on nature-based solutions for rural areas or regional levels. Actually, a few of our database has regional nature-based solutions information or tools, but also can be applied to a city level. So that's why we include them. But yes, there are similar tools. However, we don't have a database specific for rural areas. I don't know. Yes, another person mentioned, Jennifer, interesting tools and presentations. Am I correct to assume that most of these are based in an European context? Yes, most of the tools have been developed within the European Union. However, we have noticed that there's been a lot of research done in the United States, also in Latin America, and other parts of the world, but more like the application of such tools. Like Africa and Asia. Asia has also developed some tools, but it's more like in collaboration with the European partners who have applied there also projects in their cities. So yeah, we can see that that there are being developed a lot of nature-based solutions tools around the world, but also related to the European projects that have pilot projects also in other parts of the world. Yes.
I see that there's a question for the Urban Nature Explorer. So the tool now, as I mentioned, is in the testing phase. Yes, we want to develop it further so that it can be applied to any area. And then in that case, yes, it can be used for local people and citizens who are just interested in nature-based solutions to actually plan with a map-based tool which type of nature-based solutions can be implemented, and actually create a case for the importance of nature-based solutions and the potential impacts, and actually show this to municipality leaders, I guess, and make a case for nature-based solutions in a specific area.
Maybe I will take the one about the difference between green infrastructure and NBS. in fact, they are very similar. I don't know if there is, these are all concepts, and sometimes there is, the difference between them is really narrow. But if there is something that to my mind can come as a difference, is that maybe green infrastructure means the green measures that you can apply or install, whereas NBS also includes some kind of measures that can be restored nature, restore something that was there before, or even applying sustainable agricultural practices. So not necessarily installing something, but just implementing actions that don't require any kind of infrastructure, neither green or gray. But I would say many times they are used as the same thing.
Thank you to all the three speakers and to you for your very interesting questions. So I think we've come to the conclusion of our webinar. Thank you for taking the time to participate to our first webinar regarding tools to increase uptake of NBS and enhance climate resilience in cities, which was organized in the framework of the Acton NBS project. So this webinar again has been recorded, and it will be shared on our website, whose link you should be able to see on screen, and it's in the chat box as well. On our webpage, you will also find information on our upcoming events, including the other 2 webinars of this series, which will be organized before the end of the year. Also, if you are a city and you would like to join our network, please get in touch with us via the contact page of our website. So again, thank you, and we hope to see you soon. Goodbye.